show you what's been marked as Exhibit 89. I'll start with that one. There. Do you recognize Exhibit 89?
Yes, I do.
And what is that?
That is a receipt of physical evidence.
And is that a form that's typically completed by the Wisconsin State Crime Lab as part of a receipt of evidence in a case?
Yes, this is the receipt that we provide to law enforcement agencies once we're done entering their case.
Okay. And I should have asked, you being employed with the Wisconsin State Crime Lab, were you employed in that capacity in March and April of 2022?
Yes.
Okay. And then with respect to Exhibit 89, does it indicate who from the lab would have received the items of evidence that were submitted?
It said that I received them.
Okay. And is there also an area to sign and date that?
Yes.
What was the date of that receipt at the Wisconsin State Crime Lab?
March 10th, 2022.
Thank you. And does it indicate an agency, or I guess the Wisconsin State Crime Lab's case number?
Yes, it does.
What is that?
M22636.
And does the receipt indicate how the items were received by the crime lab?
It says they were received in person.
And then does it indicate who submitted them?
Nathan Kolinsky.
Is he with the Green Bay Police Department?
Yes, he is.
All right. And then how many items were received by the Wisconsin State Crime Lab?
10 items.
Are those items A through J?
Yes.
All right. Are those items that kind of get designated by the crime lab?
Yes.
All right. And then, so basically Exhibit 89 is a receipt that the crime lab received these items on that date.
Yes.
Okay. And then I think earlier you also mentioned part of your responsibilities were also releasing evidence. Is that accurate?
Yes.
And I guess when are items released from the Wisconsin State Crime Lab?
We release the items when the analysts are done testing them.
And I believe in front of you, or sorry, to your left is Exhibit 90. Is that still up there?
Yes.
Do you recognize Exhibit 90?
Yes, I do.
And what is that?
That is an evidence release form.
And does that just indicate that the previously mentioned items A through J were returned to the Green Bay Police Department?
Yes, it does.
Okay. Does it also indicate who released those from those crime lab?
Yes,
And who would that have been?
I released them.
All right. And is there also a signature and date on that?
Yes.
What's the date that they were returned?
April 21st, 2022.
And again, those are documents that you would believe you would prepare based on your signature and time and date?
Yes.
All right. Thank you. I'd move Exhibits 89 and 90.
Any objection?
No objection, subject to cross.
89 and 90 will be received.
In either document, is there any notation with respect to an irregularity or issue with the state of those items of evidence?
No.
Thank you. I have nothing further.
Cross-examination, Mr. Fraley.
Could I have exhibits 89 and 90? There. I have enough. Thank you. Ms. Sassman, good afternoon.
Good afternoon.
You work for the Division of Criminal Investigations, otherwise known as DCI,
Yes, I do.
and that's part of the Wisconsin State Crime Lab,
No, it's part of the Department of Justice,
Okay.
but we are separate from the crime lab.
part of DOJ.
Yes.
And your role is to be the evidence specialist.
At DCI, I'm the evidence program manager. When I was at the crime lab, I was an evidence specialist.
Okay, so you supervise other people?
No, I'm at DCI. I'm in charge of things like audits and scheduling those things and making sure all the evidence rooms are running smoothly.
Okay. Back in March and April of 2022, you were the evidence specialist, is that correct?
Correct.
And that job was to do what? Track evidence and keep it in proper custody?
Yes, we would receive the evidence as it came in. If the analysts needed the evidence, we would release it to them, and then we would release it to the agencies once we were done with the analysis.
Exhibit 89 is here, and it's the receipt of physical evidence. You saw that, correct?
Yes,
Do you have it up by you?
I do.
So you received items A through J, is that correct?
Correct.
And these items were in sealed manila envelopes, correct?
Some of the items.
And the items that you received were basically buccal swabs or various swabs from different items. Is that fair?
There's also a pair of sweatpants,
You
but
rec-
everything else is, and a dildo.
Okay, you received all that?
Yes.
When you get this evidence, where do you put it?
It depends on the type of evidence that we receive.
I'm
For-
talking about this case.
For swabs,
Yeah.
we would put them in the freezer for
Okay.
storage.
Okay,
For the sweatpants, we would put them in our general storage.
okay. And at the DCI, Department of Justice, you have like a evidence room where you keep things?
At DCI, yes.
Okay. And is it secure,
Yes.
locked?
Yes.
And are you responsible for who takes items out and who puts items in?
At DCI, it depends on the location. We have multiple DCI offices around the state.
All of the items that we're talking about, were they kept in Madison?
Yes, they were kept at the state crime lab,
Okay.
not at DCI.
Oh, at the State Crime Lab, okay. But were you working there at the time?
I was working for the crime lab, yes.
Okay. Can other people have access to these particular items, or is it only analysts?
So the only people that have access to the evidence room are other evidence specialists and supervisors.
Okay.
So an analyst cannot access them.
If an analyst wants to do testing on these items, what do they have to do? Do they have to confer with you and get approval from you?
They have to contact us, and then we will provide them with the evidence.
And is that what happened in this particular case?
Yes.
When an analyst wants to do testing, do they do the testing on one day and then put it back?
Usually, no. That's a better question for the analysts. They tend to keep the evidence until they're completely done with it.
Could they keep it for days on end or not?
Yes, they can.
Okay. And so when they go home at night for, after work, where do the items stay?
The analysts have their own secure locations to store the evidence.
Okay. When you received these items, do you inspect them to see whether they got damaged in the mail, or there's any issues with the packaging or labeling or anything like that?
Yes. So we will check the evidence packaging to make sure there's no tears or damage. And then if there are labels on the packaging from the agency, we will make sure it matches the transmittal.
Have you ever seen items that are received by the state crime lab that are damaged?
I've seen damaged packaging before.
When you got these items A through J, were any of the items, the packages damaged?
No, they were not.
Okay, everything was intact?
Yes.
Anything about the items that you received that were cause for concern?
No.
I'm sure in your experience, you've seen labels that are mismarked and things like that, correct?
Yes,
It happens sometimes, right?
it does.
Did that happen with any of the items that you received with regards to this case?
No, it did not.
And then is it protocol then to fill out this form and identify the item and then describe what it is?
Yes.
Do you fill out this form?
Yes.
And then do you sign it as the recipient?
Yes, I do.
And you received items A through J on what, March 10th of 2022?
Yes.
That was at 11:01 a.m.
Yes.
With regards to Exhibit 90, the evidence disposition -release form, is that a form you prepared?
Yes, it is.
And does this evidence disposition release form contain all of the same items that are on the other one? Or does it contain more?
It contains more.
Why are these two forms different? Why do they have different items?
So the evidence receipt form, that is all the evidence that was submitted to the lab on March 10th. The evidence release form is all of the evidence that's being sent back to the agency, and that includes a DNA packet that the analyst creates, as well as all the extractions from the analysis that they completed.
This Exhibit 90, did you sign this evidence disposition form?
Yes, I did.
Did you type it up?
Yes.
And was it dated April 21st or April 22nd of 2022?
So I created it on April 21st, 2022.
And then someone else signed it on April 22nd of 2022?
Yes.
Why is that?
So we returned the evidence through Speedy, which is a courier company. And so Green Bay Police Department would have received it on April 22nd, 2022. And that is their signature.
So after all the testing was done and all these items that the Wisconsin State Crime Lab received, Speedy Delivery Service was used to transport it back to Green Bay to the police department?
Yes.
Why didn't someone from the State Crime Lab deliver it to the Green Bay Police Department?
It is not our policy to deliver the evidence back to agencies. We either ship it back or they have to come in person and pick it up.
Did you call the Green Bay Police Department to ask them to come and pick up these items once they were done being tested?
No.
Why not? Wouldn't that be something you would do?
Generally, we always ship the evidence back unless it's for an agency that is near the crime lab in Madison, or if it contains a lot of large items, like, for example, like a rifle, which would be much harder to ship back.
Was everything shipped back to the Green Bay Police Department on April 21st of 2022, or was it a different day?
It was shipped back on April 21st, 2022.
And is it true that the Green Bay Police Department received these items the next day on April 22nd of 2022?
That's what they wrote on the form.
A day later.
Yes.
So we don't know where this stuff was sitting for a whole day, do we?
No.
Thank you. Nothing further.
Redirect?
No.
Thank you. You can step down. State's next witness.
State will call AJ Gannon.
If you want to step up here, and before you have a seat, turn and face her and raise your right hand.
You solemnly swear to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth in the matter now before the court, so help you God. Please have a seat and state your name for the record.
Can I speak right now?
Yes.
My name is Alexander Gannon.
Okay, the witness is yours, Mr. Saunders.
So I introduced you as AJ. Is that a preferred nickname you go by?
Yeah.
I'm sorry, but your proper name is Alexander.
Yes.
Okay. So is it okay if I call you AJ?
That's fine.
All right. So AJ, how old are you?
25.
Do you live in the Green Bay area?
Yes.
Did you grow up here as well?
Yes.
Did you go to high school and middle school here?
Yes.
AJ, do you know somebody by the name of Shad Therian?
Yes.
And how do you know Shad?
I've known him since middle school.
And what middle school did you go to school with him at?
I think I saw him before a couple times in like intermediate, but we mainly ran up at Bayview.
Okay. Bayview Middle School?
Yeah.
Okay. And throughout, schooling, and I guess now you're an adult, did you keep in touch with Shad?
Well, after about maybe it was the first year I moved into my apartment was when I started really connecting with a lot of people from that I've ran into or I've talked with, and Chad was one of them.
So there's a reacquainting period, I guess.
Yes.
AJ, do you also know somebody named Taylor Coronado or Schabusiness?
Yes.
And how do you know her?
Since middle school.
Similar to Shad?
Yes.
Did you remain kind of friendly with Taylor as well?
Yes.
Sorry, is that a yes?
Yes.
Sorry. So AJ, I want to ask you about February 21st of 2022. It was a Monday. Do you recall the date I'm talking about?
Yes.
Okay.
I don't know when this happened, but I don't know.
Sure. So do you recall a day where you were, I guess, hanging out with
Oh.
Shad and Taylor?
Okay, I didn't. You were saying the date, but I didn't.
Sure.
I didn't have context. So.
Sure. So I want to ask you then, let's get this way. At some point, did you become aware that Shad had passed away?
It was only. It was only after when the day before I was heading out to vacation to see my parents.
Okay.
My dad specifically.
All right. And was that in February of 22?
No, it was like a week after. I think it was. So it was in February. No, I went. I had vacation in June, but I don't remember. I'm sorry. I have a lot of mental problems,
Sure.
so it's hard to keep a constant catalog of memories.
Sure. So are you referring to when you learned that Shad had passed?
All I knew was it was a week. It was a week after, something like that. I don't know for sure. All I knew was basically the day after, a couple days after, I was going to the Eastman apartment buildings because that's where I knew Taylor was at the time. And ironically, the same day that I went there, the police were knocking on my door specifically to try and get into reach for me with the situation. And the only thing that I knew at the time was basically they asked if I knew the whereabouts of Shad and Taylor. So that's the closest thing I can remember. It's just
Sure. And
so.
I know we're talking about something a long time ago, and dates may be a little fuzzy. Is that fair?
Yeah, so sure you don't.
So that time you were talking about where law enforcement was asking you some questions, do you remember telling them about a time you were hanging out with Shad and Taylor?
Yes.
Okay.
The night of.
Can you tell us about that?
Yes. I was drinking a little bit belligerently, so it's the only time that I looked at the clock was before I left my apartment. So it was after 10:30, 10 around that time frame. And basically it was I just decided to stop dissociating a lot, and I felt bad for not talking to a whole lot of friends that I used to talk to, like Taylor and Chad. So I just hit up Taylor randomly. I was like, hey, what's up? Are you going to hang out? And then basically I went over to the apartments, and when specifically when I got there, I was we were just chilling, chopping it up, like how we always do. And basically, I was like, Taylor was asking like, do you wanna hang out with Shad? She was asking me like for consent to hang out with Shad, to bring him over, and I was like, yeah, that's fine, that's cool. And so,
Okay, could I stop you right there? I'm sorry. I just have a quick question. So when you said you were at the apartment, which apartment is this?
the Meadowview East apartments.
Okay, is that kind of where you thought Taylor was staying, or whose apartment was it?
It was it was the same apartments that I lived there. So it was like I'm sorry, what?
Sure. So the apartment is on Eastman that you're talking about?
Yeah.
Okay, and I'm sorry I interrupted. You were with Taylor, and then she brought up hanging out with Shad?
Yeah.
Did you meet up with Shad that night?
Yes, I did.
And where were you sort of hanging out with Shad then?
We picked him up, went back to the apartments, and was just chopping it up.
Is that the same apartment you were just talking about?
Yes.
And I want to date myself. Chopping it up, what does that mean?
Oh, it's just like kicking it, talking about whatever, just small talk or anything.
Okay.
Just kind of having conversation.
Is it a pretty good, chill atmosphere?
Yeah, it was a good vibe.
No major, issues or anything that stick out to you?
I never saw one thing that night.
Kind of Shad was acting normal.
Yes, he was.
Taylor was acting normal.
Yes.
And you said this was about 10 o'clock, 10:30 at night?
This was when I went to the apartment, like around that time frame.
And this is still the apartment on Eastman?
Yes.
Okay. And then at some point, do you leave that apartment?
I left. I did leave. I left probably like at least maybe like a couple hours, maybe until like 1, 2 in the morning. I don't know for sure. It's like I said, I only looked at the time before I left the apartment, and I was a little drunk. So
But at some point, you left the apartment. Were Shad and Taylor still at the apartment when you left?
from when I saw it, I don't know, but that's what, yes, from what I saw.
And then after that point, had you ever seen Shad again?
What?
After that point, after you left that apartment, had you ever seen Shad again?
No. Ironically, I hit him up the day after, or like a couple days, like of the first week into the situation, and I call him. I message him about a song that he posted on his Facebook, which was like some it was like some rap song that I like. No, yeah, I just like randomly sent him a message that day. I was like, yeah, it's dope. And then I was like feeling a little, when I don't have people talking to me a whole lot, I get a little anxious. And now I'm like, hey, what's up? Like, I'm a little concerned immediately.
Okay.
But like I didn't realize until after my friend mentioned to me specifically about what happened.
And I'm sorry, I'm jumping around on you here. I want to go back to when it was you and Taylor, and you
Yes.
went to go pick up Shad. Is that right?
Yes.
Okay. How did you pick up Shad?
Me?
How did you and Taylor go and pick him up?
Okay. Well, we took a minivan.
Who drove?
Taylor.
Do you know whose minivan that was?
No.
Okay. Was it a minivan that was at that apartment that you were at?
Yes.
And you went to Shad's house to pick him up?
Yes.
Thank you, AJ. I have nothing further. Thank you.
Mr. Freilich, do you have any questions?
Yes, I do. Mr. Gannon, good afternoon. You knew Taylor and Shad since middle school,
Yes.
and you went to school at Bayview Middle School? Yes?
Yes.
And then did you go to high school together as well?
A little bit until the freshman year.
Okay. Did you go
I went to 3 different high schools in my freshman year.
Okay,
So
Did-
it's bouncing a lot.
that's okay. Did you go to high school with Taylor Schabusiness
Yes,
at Bayport?
yes,
And you kind of knew her pretty well, correct?
yes. Enough to associate with her.
You were friends with her?
Yeah, to associate and be friends with, yes.
And was it your understanding that at least in high school, Shad Therian and Taylor Schabusiness kind of were boyfriend and girlfriend? They dated a little bit?
Yes. I don't know how the connection between them, but it seemed like at the time after the breakup with Corey, it seems like that's like the only person that she always chill with sometimes. That's like whenever I see Shad, so more times over, especially when he's like chilling, I see Taylor or a couple other friends in that circle in there.
Okay,
They were pretty cool people.
sure. Did you sometimes go over to Shad Therian's mother's house, Tara Pakinich on Stony Brook Lane?
Yeah, the year that I moved out, I visited a couple times, at least a handful of times.
Would you go over there to maybe eat or play video games and watch TV?
We wouldn't do a whole lot, but I just came. Typically, I was like the runt that would just be chilling with the whole pack, basically, of dogs that we're chilling with. You know what I'm saying? So it's like,
You just kind of hang out with the group?
yeah, just hanging out with the group.
Okay, all right.
So.
Would you sometimes go over to Shad's father's house, Michael Therian's house?
Yes,
And was it such that Shad Therian, he lived with his father, Michael Therian?
at the time that I heard of, yes,
So you had been to Shad's father's house and Shad's mother's house, correct?
yes,
And fair to say that you'd been over to the apartment on Eastman Avenue where Taylor Schabusiness was living, correct?
yes.
And sir, you'd go over to that residence to kind of chill or hang out, listen to music, watch TV, whatever, correct?
Yeah.
You had Taylor's phone number,
I had her Facebook.
and as far as Shad Therian, you had his phone number or Facebook information.
Yeah, I had his Facebook at the time too.
Fair to say that all three of you, yourself, Mr. Gannon, Taylor Schabusiness, and Shad Therian, you all had each other's contact information, correct?
Yes, but after like a rough like patch with like a friend, I was like chilling. I just started dissociating, and I do that a lot for the past 10, 20 years. I just like, if I feel like people don't, if there's like a sort of discrepancy, I just like cut you off. It's like block you or whatever. And then that's the reason why the day before that situation with the murder, I hate him up. I hate Taylor up because I just wanted to associate again.
Okay.
So
Now, Taylor Schabusiness has a father. Do you know her dad?
yes,
Okay. His name is Arturo Coronado. Is that correct?
yes,
Had you been over to Arturo Coronado's house?
yes.
And was that with Taylor?
It was not the. This was like maybe like a year or like so before I visited. There's been very few times since I personally talked to Art. So
But had you been over to Art's house with Taylor in the past?
yes, I have.
So you kind of knew Taylor pretty well, fair?
Yeah.
Okay. And you knew Shad very well, correct?
Yeah.
Was it such that there were times when maybe you'd be hanging out with Taylor and Shad where they would be using marijuana together?
Prior
Yes.
acts aren't relevant.
Wait. No,
Stop.
Your Honor, I'll withdraw.
Thank you.
Questions withdrawn. Okay, ask another question, Mr. Freilich.
Did you see Taylor Schabusiness on February 23rd of 2022?
February 23rd?
Yes.
No,
How about the day before on February 22nd of 2022?
no.
You saw her on February 21st of 2022, correct? That was a Monday?
I don't know what day that was.
Okay.
That's just a little bit too out of my polymath. I'm sorry.
Okay, that's fine. But you did all hang out together and you drove over to Michael Therian's house. Is that your testimony?
Michael Therian?
Yes.
I think like all I remember. I don't know.
Okay.
So
You're not good with dates, correct?
I'm better with dates, just not like recently up for like the past 5, 10
Okay,
years. So
that's fine. So prior to you being told that Shad Therian was deceased, the days before you were told that, you were hanging out with Shad and Taylor, correct?
yes,
And did you notice anything odd about Taylor as far as her mannerisms, her eyes, her speech, anything like that?
no,
Did you have any feelings that she was acting weird when you had contact with her? Bizarre?
no.
Had there been occasions where you've seen her and you felt that she was acting very odd or
Object,
unusual?
Judge. Relevance.
Mr. Freilich?
Well, I think it goes to his observations of my client, Your Honor.
Well, then you need to narrow down with it for a time frame for him. So I'm going to sustain the objection as to ask another question. Mr. Freilich?
Okay, sure. Mr. Yenna,
Yes.
in the week before you had contact with the police where you talked to the officer, had you saw Taylor Schabusiness in that period of time, is that fair?
Yes,
And when you saw her, was it just one time or was it several times? Do you
it
know?
was only one time.
Okay, and that one time when you saw her, did you observe her to be acting in any kind of bizarre manner?
No,
Okay. Okay, nothing further. Thank you very much. sir.
Any redirect?
No, Your Honor, thank you.
Thank you, sir. You can step down. Okay, ladies and gentlemen, we're going to take our afternoon recess. It's just a little bit before 3. We'll try to reconvene at 10 after 3. So all rise for the jury. Be seated. Can I get a sense, Mr. Saunders, as far as witnesses go? Last night we went to about 5, although that just kind of went off the rails a little bit as far as timing. And I guess I'm wondering if you can give me a sense of what we're looking at this evening.
Have 6 more witnesses that would be available today. I would think they'd be on the shorter end, but I think we could finish then.
Very good. Then we're in recess until 3:10. Anything else, actually, Mr. Fraley?
No, Your Honor, thank you.
Very good. We're in recess.
Thank you.
Excuse me, Your Honor.
Yes. All right. Good, sir, if you want us to come right up here, and before you have a seat, you turn and face her, and she'll place you under oath.
Do you solemnly swear to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth in the matter now before the court, so help you God?
I do.
Please have a seat and state your name for the record.
My name is Craig Pakala, Craig, P as in Paul, Akkala.
Right, Mr. Saunders, the witness is yours.
Officer, how are you employed?
I'm a detective with the City of Green Bay Police Department,
And how long have you been employed in law enforcement?
approximately 30 years.
And is the entirety of that time with the Green Bay Police Department?
No, it is not.
You have prior law enforcement experience in a different jurisdiction?
I was a police officer in the state of Michigan,
How long have you been with the Green Bay Police Department?
approximately 24 years.
In your current assignment as a detective, how long has that been for?
Approximately 8 years.
And I want to ask you about February 23rd of 2022. Do you recall if you were working in that capacity on that date?
I was.
And were you called in to assist in an apparent homicide investigation on that day?
I was.
To where were you dispatched to, or where did you respond to?
My initial response was to the Green Bay Police Department at 307 South Adams in Green Bay.
And what did you do when you got to the police station?
When I arrived at the station, I was soon thereafter asked to respond to 2353 Eastman Avenue to assist officers who were on scene there.
What was the reason you were dispatched to the Eastman Avenue residence?
Shortly before my arrival at the Green Bay Police Department, and I was contacted at approximately 4:45 in the morning. Shortly before my arrival there, I was advised that they located the suspect involved in the incident and also a vehicle that she was driving at that address.
And when you got to the Eastman Avenue address, what did you do?
When I first arrived at the address, I made contact with two different supervisors, one of which was Sergeant Jeff Schilling, and the second one was Lieutenant Tom Buckman, at which time they informed me of the status of the scene.
When you arrived, had the area sort of already been secured by other officers?
Yes, it had.
And can you describe how it was secured?
Officers, prior to my arrival, they noted some red substance in the snow along a sidewalk trail, and that area had some cones by it, or they're soon about to put cones by it. The entrance door to the apartment complex itself, and then within the complex common hallway, they had evidence tape securing that area.
And were some officers also providing security or monitoring of the crime scene to see who was entering and leaving?
There were.
What did you do, I guess, after speaking with those initial supervisors who were on scene?
After I spoke to the officers and supervisors that were present, I determined that we would need a search warrant to proceed with the search of the interior of the apartment, which was apartment number 1. I took note of the description of the building and area to be searched, including the apartment. I also took some preliminary pictures of the exterior of the building, including the suspect vehicle and the entranceway to the apartment, which was number 1.
I want to ask you about some of those pictures. Showing that was
Excuse me.
previously been marked Exhibit 80. Do you recognize that exhibit?
I do.
What is that?
That is a picture of the side of the apartment complex as previously described. That is the north side of the apartment complex. The main entrance to the apartment 2353 to the common area is on the right side of the picture. That has some evidence tape in front of it. And that is a picture of 3 vehicles parked in a southbound direction. And I was informed that the middle vehicle, which is a van, was that in which the suspect arrived to the scene in.
And Exhibit 80, as you're looking at it, does that appear to fairly and accurately depict that area and those vehicles as you encountered them when you arrived on scene?
That is correct, it does.
And that's a photograph that you took as well?
I did.
You then, yeah, that's fine. You then indicated you were waiting for a warrant to authorize the search of the inside of the apartment. Is that right?
That is correct.
Was one then obtained?
I did obtain a warrant.
And did you then participate in the search of that Eastman Avenue apartment?
I did.
And what apartment number was the subject of the search?
Number 1.
All right. And I guess was that reported to be the apartment where Mr. Business and Mr. Tomes were residing?
That is correct.
And I guess what was, generally your role in searching the apartment?
My role in searching the apartment was to look to evidence or looking areas where evidence that were listed in the warrant may be found. I did receive information of the type of crime that was committed at a prior address. So I listed those items which would be used in that particular crime, and we searched the apartment for those type of items.
In the course of your occupation, have you received training in searching areas such as apartments for items of evidence?
I have.
And have you received training in collecting physical evidence such as DNA and blood and other substances?
I have.
And in the course of your 30 years in law enforcement, is that something you've done in the past?
Yes, I have.
In this case, when you were sort of searching the residence, were you wearing any special attire?
I was.
Can you describe what that was?
I believe I had on some protective wear on my feet, but I also wore rubber gloves at any time I handled or collected evidence, especially that containing DNA.
The steps you took were consistent with your training and experience?
Yes.
All right, so I want to then show you what's been marked. First, I'll ask this, Detective. Could you describe the inside of apartment number 1 at 2353 Eastman Avenue for us?
Apartment number 1 at 2353 Eastman is a single bedroom apartment. Entrance to the apartment is located on the east side of the hallway, the common entrance. As you walk in, there's a kitchen to your right, which is kind of an open kind of concept type kitchen. To your left is a bedroom, or I'm sorry, to your left is the living room. The living room has a window showing the parking lot, which was indicated in this picture. As you proceed east, there is a bedroom located on the furthest east side of the room in the north corner, and there's a bathroom to the right of that bedroom.
I'm going to show you exhibits 91 through 94. I'll ask you to look through those and ask if you recognize those exhibits.
I do recognize those exhibits.
What are those?
Those are photographs I took of various locations within the bedroom as described in that apartment.
And do those appear to be consistent with the scene you encountered on February 23rd of 2022 on Eastman Avenue?
Yes, they do.
I'd move those exhibits, Your Honor.
Any objection?
No objection, subject to cross.
91 through 94 will be received.
So then, Judge, I'd also ask permission to publish those exhibits.
No objection.
All right, those can be published.
All right, so Detective, are we looking at Exhibit 91 projected?
Yes, you're looking at Exhibit 91.
All right, and what does 91 depict?
I'm sorry,
Sorry, what does 91 depict?
91 depicts the bed located in the bedroom of apartment number 1 at 2353 Eastern Avenue.
Okay, and then Exhibit 92, what does that depict?
That depicts a cell phone that was on the bed at the time I took the picture.
And is that consistent with the area that you recovered that cell phone from?
It is.
For instance, it wasn't moved from its location to your knowledge prior to taking this photograph?
That is correct. It was not.
And then did you collect that cellular device as part of your evidence collection in this case?
Yes, I did.
I also then want to move then to 93, I think. 93, is this what we're looking at?
Yes.
And what does 93 depict?
93 is a light switch for that bedroom as described. That light switch is located on a west wall. As you walk into the bedroom, it'd be to the left or to the north.
And it's the same bedroom, and I guess the sole bedroom in that apartment that we looked at earlier.
That is correct.
All right. And then Exhibit 94, what does this depict?
Exhibit 94 is a close-up of image 93 of the light switch. And I also have scale indicators on there showing the location where I took the picture or where it's located.
Thank you. So then with respect to Exhibit 94 here, did you conduct any further processing of that area?
I did. I collected a DNA sample, or I collected a swab of a potential DNA sample of the red substance on that light switch.
And how did you collect that DNA sample?
I collected that by way of using a swab, sterile swab, in a prepackaged container, so to speak. For this particular swab, because it was dry, I added distilled water to the end of that cotton swab. And then I simply rubbed the swab on there. And then I packaged that swab and sealed it at the seam.
And the swab that you collected and the procedure you just described, is that how you're trained to do it?
I am.
What did you do with that swab once you were completed with the processing?
When the completion of that particular swab, it was packaged and sealed. All items of evidence were returned to the Green Bay Police Department, where they are submitted into our evidence department, a secure property locker.
And I do want to just go back a little bit. I'm going to go to, I believe this is Exhibit 92. Sorry to jump around on you.
You're fine.
Is this Exhibit 92?
It is.
You indicated that phone was collected by yourself. Is that right?
That is correct.
When you enter an item of evidence such as this into evidence, I guess, does it get assigned a unique identifier of some kind?
When we enter an item of evidence, we create a number showing who collected it or who processed it into evidence. Yes.
Okay. And was that done to your knowledge for this phone?
Yes.
And do you recall what the number was offhand?
No, I won't be able to recall that.
Okay. Are there a lot of numbers that you're keeping in your head with respect to the exhibits you collected?
That is correct.
Would you have documented that or memorialized that in your details?
I would have.
Okay.
Yes,
Would that assist you in refreshing your memory and what the exhibit number for that item is?
it would.
I'm going to show you what's been marked. Exhibit 95. Do you recognize Exhibit 95?
Exhibit 95 are my details related to this case and the search of that apartment.
And I'd ask if you could review the details, particularly the top of page 2. And then I'll ask if that helps refresh your recollection as to that item, that exhibit number.
It does refresh my memory.
Okay, and then what is the item number of that cellular device?
That cellular device that was collected, which was on the bed, is evidence number 22-209-240-370-004.
So those last six numbers, 370004, what do those signify?
370 is my personal computer number that's associated to our reporting system. 004 is merely a item that I collected associated with my computer number, and that is just a sequential order that they're placed in as I put these items into evidence. So that was the fourth item that I categorized.
Thank you, Detective. I have nothing further.
Cross-examination, Mr. Freilich.
Thank you, Detective Pacala. Good afternoon.
Good afternoon.
Sir, you were contacted by your Lieutenant Pagoon, on February 23rd of 2022 to come into the station. Is that correct?
That is correct.
Regarding an apparent homicide, correct?
Yes, sir.
And the information that you received was that a mother discovered something in a bucket in her basement, correct?
That is correct.
There are different officers or investigators or detectives already involved, correct?
Yes, sir.
That being Detective Like, Detective Groff, Detective Kempf, correct?
That is correct.
And you gained information that someone by the name of Stephen Hendricks had called Brown County Dispatch at about 3:25 a.m. to report this. Is that fair?
That is fair.
And then while en route to the Green Bay Police Department, you heard other officers calling out with a need to possibly go to 2353 Eastman Avenue. Is that fair?
That is fair.
So when you got to the station, you were briefed by Lieutenant Bagoon, correct?
He was one of them, yes.
And were you told to go over to Eastman Avenue?
Yes, sir.
And so did you go there by yourself?
I did.
Okay, and you met up with other detectives, correct?
At the scene at that time, I was the only detective at the scene.
Okay. There are other officers there, correct?
Yes, sir.
Officer Garth Russell was there?
I don't recall Garth Russell being there.
Okay. Do you know who else was there?
The two that I made contact with were Sergeant Jeff Schilling and Lieutenant Buckman, Tom Buckman.
And what time did you get to the Eastman Avenue apartment complex?
I don't know the exact time, but it was after 4:45 and still in the hours of darkness during that day.
All right. There's snow on the ground, correct?
There
It's
was.
cold outside, correct?
Yes, sir.
And you made your way up to the front door of the apartment complex, correct?
I did.
Had individuals already been arrested by the time you got there?
They had. Yes.
All right. When you walked up, did you see crime scene tape at all?
I did see tape in the doorway entrance. Yes.
Okay. Later, did you see crime scene tape around the Town and Country minivan?
I don't recall that.
All right. And then your plan was basically to go into apartment number 1 at this apartment complex to conduct a search, right?
That is correct.
And did you have a search warrant at the time?
I did.
Okay. And so then you walked into the unit, correct?
Following the search warrant. Yes.
And the bedroom and living room windows face the parking lot, is that correct?
The living room window for sure does face the parking lot. I'm uncertain on the bedroom window.
Were any individuals inside of apartment number 1?
No.
And so you walked around and started looking for things, correct?
I began my search, correct?
You searched the living room and the kitchen?
I searched the bedroom area.
Okay. there's one bedroom there, correct?
Correct.
In the bedroom area, did you find any body parts or human remains?
No, not outright, no.
Did you find anything of evidentiary value in that bedroom?
I believe I collected items of evidentiary value, yes.
What did you collect? A telephone?
I collected 2 cell phones.
Where were the cell phones?
Where are they now?
No, where were they?
Oh, one was depicted on the bed in one of the images, and the second one was in a purse.
Exhibit 91, that photograph depicts a bed, correct?
Yes, it does.
And there's a phone on the bed, correct?
Yes,
Bed's got a gray comforter on it, correct?
it does.
And there's a phone cord there.
Correct.
And there's some other device. I don't know if that's a fan or something else. Is that true?
Correct.
And then exhibit 92 is just basically a close-up picture of the comforter, correct?
Correct.
Exhibit 93 is a light switch, correct?
Yes, sir.
And that light switch is on the wall in the bedroom of Unit 1 at 2353 Eastman Avenue.
That is correct.
That light switch is cracked, correct?
It is correct.
And there's smear marks on it, correct?
Yes, I would describe those as smear marks.
You looked at those smear marks. Was that an issue for you? Like, as far as, were you concerned that about what that was?
I was concerned due to the marks and the coloration. I felt it was a value for evidence to collect that, yes.
And did you collect it then?
I did.
You had no contact with Taylor Schabusiness on this particular date, correct?
No, sir, I did not.
All the contact with Ms. Schabusiness was with Detective Groff and Detective Kempf, correct?
From the best of my knowledge, yes.
You never talked to her at all, correct?
No, sir.
You never saw anybody in the gold Town and Country minivan that was parked, correct?
No, sir.
You saw, that's true, right?
Yes, sir.
You never saw any people inside the van when you walked up or when you left, fair?
Fair. I did not.
And you never saw that gold Town and Country minivan move at all, correct?
No, I did not.
How long were you at the scene at Eastman Avenue?
I was at the scene initially for approximately an hour. Then I left to complete the search warrant and returned. And then I was at the scene for several hours to complete the search.
And this apartment complex, is it called Meadowview East Apartments?
I believe that's the name of that section, yes.
And the vehicles, they park basically in a line next to each other, is that fair?
That is fair.
In front of that, there's a sidewalk, correct?
There is.
And the police tape was around just the gold minivan, or was it around the vehicle on either side of the minivan?
I don't recall the police tape organizational or if there was police tape around the minivan itself.
Okay. At some point in time, was it such that a gentleman, maybe part of the facility or whatnot, but he was shoveling and he continued to shovel down the sidewalk underneath the police tape into the crime scene? Did that happen?
I recall a person shoveling, but as I said, I left I was gone from the scene, so I don't know where he shoveled to or if he made it to the crime scene area.
Whose responsibility was it to protect and preserve the crime scene and where the yellow police tape was located?
Lieutenant Buckman and or Sergeant Schilling would have assigned a patrol officer in uniform and or a squad car to sit and watch that scene.
Okay. In preparing for trial and reviewing all the records, you did review most of the police reports, correct?
I reviewed my police reports.
Okay. Did you review other officers or other detectives' reports?
I did not.
Okay. But did you come to find out that that really did happen, that someone shoveled on the sidewalk into the crime scene underneath the police tape?
I observed upon my arrival back, there was somebody shoveling, but they were a distance away. So as far as that explanation of what you're describing, I wasn't aware of that.
If I told you that happened, would you be shocked?
Objection, calls for speculation.
I'll withdraw.
Thank you.
Okay, questions withdrawn.
So when you got there, you took pictures of the doorway to the apartment, correct?
The doorway is depicted in the picture, correct?
Did you dust for prints on the minivan at all?
I did not.
You collected some additional DNA swabs in 2 different areas of the apartment. Is that fair?
One different area, I believe.
Okay. If your report says 2 different areas, would that be accurate?
It would be.
Okay. And as you were searching the apartment, did you note a red substance on the hallway wall leading from the living room to Ms. Schabusiness's bedroom and the bathroom?
Yes, sir, I did.
And then at some point, did you determine that you were not going to be concerned about that?
I collected that in the same manner as I did the other item of DNA evidence. However, I did indicate in my report that it did not appear to be a biological substance.
Okay. How did you determine that it was not a biological substance?
Because under normal circumstances, and when I say normal, it's just based on my past experience, when you try to collect a sample and you add distilled water, which is the proper protocol to rehydrate something, if that does not come off very easily, it could be anything from paint to nail polish or something of that nature. And this did not come off the wall as it should have if it was a substance of DNA interest.
In the bedroom, did you find anything else that was concerning?
I collected another item of evidence in the bedroom, yes.
What was it?
I collected some syringes that appeared to be somewhat melted, for lack of better terms, together.
Nothing further.
Redirect.
No, thank you.
Okay, thank you. You're excused. State's next witness.
State calls Nate Kalinsky.
Okay, sir, if you want to step right up over here, and before you have a seat, if you could turn and face her and raise your right hand, she'll place you under oath.
You solemnly swear to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth in the matter now before the court, so help you God.
I do.
Please have a seat and state your name for the record.
Nathan R. Kalinsky. Last name is Kolinski.
Okay, then Mr. Saunders, the witness is yours.
Can you tell us how you're employed?
I am a evidence tech with the Green Bay Police Department.
What do you do as an evidence tech?
So our job is to, once the officers package and seal the evidence, they hand it over to us, and our job is to keep it safe and secure, basically until the case is over.
Okay. And how long have you been employed in that capacity as an evidence tech?
About 6.5 years.
All right. In addition to maintaining custody of items, is it also the case that you're responsible for transmitting certain items to the Wisconsin State Crime Lab?
Yes.
And that's for, I guess, further testing by them?
Yes. Yep. We send it out to the crime labs, and then the crime lab also mails it back to us. We receive the packages back.
And how is it that items are sent to the Wisconsin State Crime Lab?
They are either mailed or in certain cases, we will drive them down and we do a physical hand drop off with the crime lab.
Is there any documentation that memorializes that transmittal?
We have a form on our end that we fill out, and then the crime lab has like a receipt form that says everything that they received and the date they got it in.
I'll show you exhibits 96. Do you recognize that?
Yes, this is a transmittal, looks like to, it's all three, so it's a transmittal to one of the state crime labs.
And is that a form that sort of would bear indicia that you were sort of involved in the transmittal of these items?
Yes, correct.
And what is that?
So we have here listing, do you want me to read them off or just give the numbers?
Well, first I'll ask, is there any indication that you signed it or notated on it?
Looks like has my name on the bottom of it. And then it went through and these look like there's little checkoffs on the side of the form we do that just to make note of every one that we have, just to ensure we are bringing everything down.
And is that consistent with your practice, just to make sure you've transmitted all the items you're supposed to?
Exactly. Yep.
Okay, so it's a form you believe you kind of filled out as well here?
Measure twice, cut once kind of thing. Yes.
Sure. And then what was the agency case number associated with this transmittal?
So that is going to be agency case 22-209240.
Okay. And is that, I guess, with respect to the case you're subpoenaed here for today?
That is correct.
All right. Thank you. I'd move 94.
Any objection?
No.
That'll be received.
What items of evidence did you transmit to the Wisconsin State Crime Lab in this case?
So this one, we have a buckle swab taken from Taylor Schabusiness, swabs taken from the right hand of Taylor, swab taken from the left hand of Taylor, oral swab from Shad Therion that was taken at the autopsy, a swab of the blade of exhibit 543033, swab of red substance inside exhibit 543072, swab of red substance on light switch from suspect's bedroom, black sweatpants with dried blood on it, a penile swab, and swab of exhibit 543038.
And based on your recollection and your review of this exhibit, are those items that you would have been transmitting to the crime lab?
Correct, yes.
And are you aware of how you transmitted those items to the crime lab?
I believe for this one, they were dropped off. We drove down and the Madison lab has different rooms you can go in and like hand over evidence, and then they'll give you the receipt right away that you dropped them off.
Okay. So in this instance, you personally delivered them
Yep,
to the
we
crime lab?
drove them down.
When you are transmitting items, in this instance personally, if there's an issue with transport, if there's a disruption of the evidence, is that somehow noted?
Yes. Mhm.
And was that done in this case?
No, it was not.
So there's no belief in your part that any of the items were tampered with or manipulated in any way?
No.
Apart from the transmitting, I think you mentioned earlier, one of your responsibilities is to, I guess, oversee the storage of evidence in the police station itself. Is that
Yes.
right? And can you describe the Green Bay Police Department's evidence room for us?
So we have several rooms that are throughout the basement, and all the rooms are generally the same. They're all locked rooms. They have an alarm system, a keypad entry system, and then they have cameras and motion sensors. So there are only, I believe, 5 people inside the department, including myself, that have access to these rooms. It's a very tight control. Our belief is that the fewer people that can get in there, the more secure the evidence is.
So I guess, is it the case that any member of the Green Bay Police Department can just go in the evidence room?
And no,
Is that something that either yourself or your colleague would be present for or supervise?
yes, if there's anybody outside of the 5 of us that wants to be in there, we have to escort them in the rooms, yes.
Thank you, sir. I have nothing further.
Cross-examination, Mr. Freilich.
Do I address you as Mr. Kalinsky or Evidence Tech Kalinsky?
Mr.'s fine.
Okay. So these items were transmitted down to Madison by who?
That would be, I believe, myself. And then there are normally two of us that go with. Sometimes it's a light duty officer. Sometimes it's my coworker Gene. Depends on who's free at the time.
And then do you have to park and then physically carry these items into the state crime lab, or how does that work?
Correct. There's a parking right across the street from the door. You walk inside, walk upstairs, and they go in these little large closet-sized rooms where they're there with the little desk. You hand them over one by one. They receive them, and then you get a paper receipt from them with everything that they received. It's basically their transfer of custody from us to them.
Kind of like at a library. Drop off the book.
Similar to it, we just don't lose contact with it. There's no slot or anything where they are the entire time until we hand it to them.
And then did you get your receipt right away?
Yes.
And then after the lab analysts did their testing, how did you get these items back?
We either pick them up in person if we're there for some other business, or they mail them back to us.
Do you know if these items got mailed back to you?
I'm not sure. The paperwork would say it. I can't remember off the top of my head how they got back to the department.
You've been an evidence technician for 6.5 years. You've got a lot of training and experience, correct?
Yes.
You know how to package items, you know how to make sure they're safe and secure, correct?
Yes.
You follow certain procedures when you cut the bag open, and you have to be careful, correct?
Correct. Yes.
Any issues at all with sending the materials down or getting it back?
No. None that I'm aware of.
Nothing further, thank you.
Redirect?
No, thank you.
Thank you, sir. You can step down. State's next witness.
State calls Gene Rakers.
I have a hand up from the juror.
All right, no problem. Sorry.
Okay, ma'am, just step right up over here. And then before you have a seat, if you could turn and face her and raise your right hand, she'll place you under oath.
You solemnly swear to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth in the matter now before the court, so help you God. Please have a seat and state your name for the record.
My name is Jean Rakers.
Okay, Mr. Saunders, the witness is yours.
How are you employed?
I am currently employed as an evidence technician with the Green Bay Police Department
And how long have you been employed in that capacity?
for the past 4 years.
And is one of your colleagues, Mr. Kalinsky, we just saw?
Yes,
All right. You work in the same role as him?
yes, I do.
Do you have the same job responsibilities?
Yes.
All right. I want to ask you about Green Bay PD case number 22-209240. Is that a case that you remember being involved in?
Yes.
All right. And I want to show you what's previously been marked exhibit number 90. Do you recognize exhibit 90?
Yes, I do.
What is that?
This is a transmission of evidence from the Wisconsin State Crime Lab in Madison to the Green Bay Police Department.
And I guess what are those documents used for?
It itemizes the evidence that is sent between agencies. So in this instance, these are items that were returned to the Green Bay Police Department from the State Crime Lab in Madison.
And does the form indicate which items were returned to your department?
Yes, it's the State Crime Lab assigns a letter to each piece of evidence that's designated on the form. And then our evidence exhibit number is also stated on the form.
Okay. And does the form indicate who would have been the person taking receipt of those items of evidence with the Green Bay Police Department?
Yes, my name is signed on the bottom and I indicate that I received it on April 22nd of 2022.
And so it's your belief then in reviewing that document that you received those items of evidence?
Yes.
Okay. I'd move 95.
The objection, Mr. Fraley?
No.
Right, that'll be received.
And I have nothing further.
Cross-examination.
Can I see that exhibit?
Sure. All right.
Ms. Rikers, you've been working for the Green Bay Police Department for 4 years as a evidence technician, correct?
That's correct.
And you worked with evidence tech Nathan Kalinsky.
Yes,
You work in tandem, correct?
that's correct.
Your role in this particular case was to send items or receive items or both?
In this instance, I received the items that the crime lab sent. When they're delivered, I personally receive the box that they're delivered in, and I ensure that the seals are all intact. Then I open the box and verify that the items on the list on the transmittal are indeed the items I'm receiving back.
And this exhibit number 90
Yes,
indicates that you received all of these items back on April 22nd of 2022, correct?
that's correct.
These items were sent from the State Crime Lab on April 21st of 2022 by Olivia Sassman.
Yes, the State Crime Lab in Madison.
Do you know why it took a day for you to get these items back?
Yes, that's generally the turnaround time. They're sent on one day, we receive them the next day. And again, the boxes that we received are sealed. We verify that the seals are intact before we open it and verify the contents of them.
Who transported these items from Madison back to the Green Bay Police Department?
The crime lab utilizes speedy delivery.
When these items came to the Green Bay Police Department on April 22nd of 2022, did you have to meet them at the front?
Yes, they call me up and I meet the delivery driver at the door.
And then you signed the release at that time?
That's correct.
And
I sign their little machine that they have indicating that I'm receiving it from them. I don't sign this transmittal form until I've gone through and verified that all the items on their list are indeed the items that we've received.
And on this form, there's a cross off. It's got evidence tech Nathan Kalinsky on there, correct?
Yes,
And then your name is stamped on there, is that right?
yes. That's just their form. They just have Nathan's name on there as a form. So if I'm the one receiving it, then I'm the one signing it and stamping it.
Okay, and then you keep this in your records?
That's correct.
Okay, nothing further. Thank you.
Redirect.
No, thank you.
Ma'am, before you step down, my clerk and I are running the numbers, and that can't be 95. What number?
This is Exhibit 90,
Okay,
90.
You asked for 95 to be admitted. This is 90, but it's already been admitted. So I just want to make sure we're all clear on the numbers, okay?
I wrote
Late in the
90
day,
down.
Judge, sorry.
I did write 90 down.
Okay, very good. You can step down, thank you.
You're welcome.
Next witness then?
State calls Kendall Danowski.
Ma'am, if you want to just step up right over here, and before you have a seat, if you could turn and face her and raise your right hand, she'll place you under oath.
You solemnly swear to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth in the matter, not before the court, so help you God.
I do.
Please have a seat and state your name for the record.
Kendall Danowski.
Okay, and then Mr. Lozay, the witness is yours.
Ms. Danowski, can you state for the record how you are employed?
I'm a certified forensic computer examiner with the Green Bay Police Department.
And what is a certified computer forensic examiner?
I basically take all digital devices that come through the police department and extract and sometimes analyze that data.
How long have you been employed in that capacity at the Green Bay Police Department?
Almost 7 years.
Do you have any sort of educational background or training that is related to that position?
I do, yes. Training and certifications are very important for this position to keep up with the ever-changing technology. So a couple of the more valuable ones that I've had over the past couple of years, I am certified through IASIS, which is the International Association of Computer Investigative Specialists, as a certified forensic computer examiner and a certified mobile device examiner. I'm also certified through SANS as a GFCE, which is another crucial training and program that we have to go through. I'm also certified through Celebrate as a Celebrate certified mobile examiner. And I'm also certified through Magnet as a Magnet certified forensic examiner. And lastly, I'm certified through ACE as an Access Data certified examiner.
Can you just describe for the jury generally what your process is when you are not analyzing actually, the download of a device?
Yes, so I get the device in, and depending on the make and model of that device, it has to be placed into certain settings for extraction so that it can make a connection and communication with my computer. So I get the phone in the correct settings, and then I hook it up to an adapter, and then from there I use a set of software to perform the extraction. Once that extraction is complete, I then open it up in a readable program that I then can get out to officers and detectives to go through that data.
And is it typical that you yourself will review the data on the phone, or is your typical practice that you will conduct a forensic download of the device and then provide it to another party to review?
It is typical. I perform the extraction, view some of the data to verify things parsed correctly, and then I usually pass that data on to officers or detectives.
Can you estimate approximately how many times per year you conduct a forensic download of a device?
I perform,
Relevance that you're on? Because there's all different kinds of cases. I mean, this is a homicide case, but there's many cases out there.
Overruled. You can answer your question.
thank you. I perform about 600 phone extractions a year.
Have you performed roughly that many phone extractions over the course of your 7-year career at the Green Bay Police Department?
It increases every year, but roughly yes.
Were you asked to assist in the investigation of a homicide that occurred at 829 Stony Brook in around February 22nd and 23rd of 2022?
I was, yes.
And who asked you to assist with analyzing devices in that case?
Multiple detectives. For this one, I believe Detective Graff and Detective Luberta.
And do you recall specifically how many devices you analyzed or how many devices you downloaded on this case?
I would say 10 or more.
And was one of the devices that you were asked to download a device that was attributed as belonging to Taylor Schabusiness?
Yes.
When you conduct a forensic download of a phone, do you use any paperwork to outline the work that you did with respect to that particular device?
I do, yes.
What is that called?
For every phone or computer that comes through my office, I create a cell phone or computer analysis worksheet.
I'm showing you what's been marked as exhibit 97. Can you identify that document for me?
Yes, this is a cell phone analysis worksheet that I completed for exhibit number 370004.
That exhibit number, that 37004, where does that number come from?
That comes from evidence, so every case number is assigned to a case, and then the evidence within that case gets an exhibit or evidence number.
So when an officer collects an item of evidence, they assign it that number?
Correct.
And then that is the piece of evidence that was assigned to you for download?
It was, yes.
Does the cell phone analysis worksheet for that particular piece of evidence, does it outline the process that you used to conduct the forensic download?
It does, yes.
And could you describe for the jury what process you used in this case?
Yes, so for this particular phone, I put the phone in the correct settings for extraction where it could communicate with my computer. From there, I hooked it up to the Celebrate 4PC adapter, and then I used the Celebrate 4PC extraction software to perform that extraction. Once that extraction completes successfully, I bring that into Celebrate Physical Analyzer, which is that software program that parses the data for me.
Are you able to determine when you do an extraction whether or not the extraction was successful?
I am, yes.
How do you do that?
I can compare the data on the phone after the extraction completes successfully to verify that the data on the phone is matching the data in the extraction. And also the program will show that the extraction completed successfully, or it would indicate if it did fail.
So for this particular device, in addition to doing the extraction and looking at the information on the extraction, are you able to manually manipulate the phone itself?
Yes,
So that's how you're able to confirm that the data is consistent on the device and on the extraction?
correct. That is always done after an extraction to make sure not to manipulate any data before an extraction.
In addition to conducting the extraction, did you do after the extraction was done, did you do additional manipulation of the device itself to obtain any evidence from the device?
Yes, after that extraction completed successfully, I manually navigated the phone and took additional screen captures using that same set of software.
And what is the purpose of doing those screen captures?
With certain types of extractions, some applications or data might not always be extracted or parsed correctly. For example, Google Photos might not always be extracted or parsed with that type of extraction I was able to get from this phone. So then I go on after that extraction completed successfully and manually navigate the phone and then take screenshots of those certain applications that were not included in the original extraction.
And for this particular device, did you then conduct a closer analysis of the content of the extraction, or was that tasked to another person?
I went through and verified that the data was parsed correctly and that everything that officers and detectives might need were captured with the screen captures. But after that, that data was passed on to detectives.
Do you know specifically which detective was tasked with viewing the report from the extraction of this device?
Detective Luberta.
And you mentioned that certain data may not be captured by the extraction. Can you explain why that might be the case?
So certain types of extractions can extract different things. So there's different levels of extractions. For this one, I was able to get a full file system, which will capture a lot of application data, but it isn't a full physical extraction, which captures a bit-by-bit copy identical of the flash memory on that phone. So basically, everything that's on that phone would get captured. So for this instance, it did not parse the Google Photos, the Google Chrome history, or some recent Facebook Messenger chats. So I went through and captured screenshots of those.
In addition to capturing screenshots, did you advise Detective Luberta in any way about some things that she could do to obtain additional data that's relevant to that device?
I did, yes. So when manually going through a phone, the phone stays in airplane mode. So that means that I'm not connecting to the network and no incoming text messages are coming in, no incoming chats, things like that. I'm not connecting to the network or internet. So I can only sometimes see a limited amount of data when I'm manually navigating. So I can always tell them, like, for instance, Google Photos, I could only get to a certain date without being connected to the network. So then I would say, maybe it would be a good idea to get a Google search warrant for that additional data that I might not be able to see on the phone.
What sorts of things might be captured in a Google search warrant that aren't necessarily readily available on the device?
More additional photos, Google searches, location data.
And do you know, does Google also store things in the cloud that might not be physically on the device?
It does, yes.
Do you know if Detective Luberta actually then did subsequently make a request to Google for the information that would have been related to this device?
She did, yes.
And did you have any further contact with Detective Luberta about that?
I did, yes. She got that Google return in a zip file from her search warrant that she created for that. And then from there on, she wanted me to put it in a more readable format for her. So basically, I took that zip file that she got from Google and just ingested it back into Celebrate Physical Analyzer, where it puts it in a readable, easier format that they're more comfortable with going through.
And the process that you utilize to take that zip file from Google and put it on the UFED reader, is that something that you're trained in and you do in the regular course of your duties?
Yes,
And were you comfortable that when you took the data from Google and put it into that format, that everything performed correctly in this instance?
yes.
And again, did you do the analysis then once it was placed into that more readable format, or is that something tasked to Detective Liberta as well?
Passed on to Detective Liberta.
When you extract data from a device, does the device tell you what date that particular photographs, for example, are taken? Or is that information always accurate when you put it into the UFED reader program?
It would be accurate, yes.
Are there instances in which you manipulating the device or taking it off on that date, the date that you manipulate the phone would also capture?
It could update some dates and times, yes.
No further questions at this time.
Cross-examination, Mr. Fairley.
Thank you. Ms. Danelski, good afternoon.
Hello.
So your role was basically to extract data off of a cell phone.
Correct.
Do you know who the cell phone belonged to?
This particular cell phone belonged to Taylor Schabusiness.
And you only looked at and examined one phone, correct?
I extracted multiple phones, but I didn't go through every single extraction.
Your testimony and Exhibit 91 deal with this phone that you're talking about belonging to Taylor Schabusiness, correct?
I believe this is this 90, Exhibit 97 or 91?
It's 97.
97.
97, okay. So basically, you were looking to extract data off that phone for you to turn over to Detective Jenna Liberta, correct?
Yes.
You were looking for searches, correct?
A magnitude of things, cell records,
Okay,
call
look-
logs.
Okay, let me just ask. I just want to ask you: were you looking for searches like what this person was looking for on the cell phone?
That would be included, yes.
Okay, and then you were looking for photos, correct?
Correct.
You were looking for iCloud photos, correct?
Well, in airplane mode, correct.
Okay. And then you were looking to see a GPS location to see where this phone had been, correct?
You can check the Google Maps on the phone, but you cannot check the cloud when you're not connected to that network.
And cell phones oftentimes have GPS, so if like you want to know where your teenage kid is, you could put that on your phone and you can track where they are, correct?
Correct. Sometimes, yes.
Is that what you were looking for?
I was looking most likely for recent Google searches for
Okay.
the Google Maps application.
Okay. And you had a search warrant for this phone, correct?
Correct.
What was the condition of the phone? Was it damaged at all? Did it have a cracked screen?
The phone appeared to be in, I said, okay condition with an unknown substance on the front screen, but otherwise in working condition.
It was in working condition?
Yes.
Any issues with the charge or anything like that?
No.
Any problems with the extraction at all?
No.
With regards to doing the extraction, is it such that sometimes the date might be off or the time might be off?
Usually the dates are accurate when they're set for the correct date and time, UTC -6 or 5, depending on the time zone we're in. That's adjusted in the program.
Okay. And the program that you use was Celebrate?
Correct.
When you get the data, then do you put it on a separate zip drive or something, or what? How do you do that?
It goes on a shared drive that all detectives can access.
Okay. On the Fred computer?
No, these are not performed on the Fred computer.
Okay. So how would Detective Liberta then access this information?
So the original extraction is saved on a Synology that only I have access to in my office. And then that's where the original dump goes in the extraction. And then that UFDR file that I create from that Celebrite Physical Analyzer software, then I can send that to a shared drive that all detectives have access to. So that would be where Detective Liberta accessed the UFDR file.
And then this information, this data, is it stored at the police department?
It is, yes.
Where is it stored?
Permanently stored on a Synology in my office.
Okay. And then if someone wants to look at it, they have to go through you?
Correct, unless they can access the UFDR file that was created and put on that shared drive.
Is there any way that information, that data that you extracted, could it be tampered with or lost or misplaced somehow?
Not the original extraction that I save in my office, but the UFDR file could be deleted if a detective wanted to delete it for some reason or move it to another folder on that drive. But they can't actually manipulate any data in the program, like switch a text message, date or time, something like that.
Did anything like that happen?
Not that I'm aware of, no.
Okay. And then you were talking about on these screen captures. Is it kind of like taking a screenshot of something where you want to capture like maybe a text message or picture or something like that?
Very similar, yes. I use that Celebrate for PC program, which basically has a screen capture function built right in, which will capture the entire screen of the phone when you basically click a photograph button on the program.
Okay. And then you said something about parsing data correctly. What do you mean by that?
I just verify, like you said, the dates and times match up. If for some reason Facebook Messenger didn't parse and I need to go through and take screenshots of that, I would note that and go into that application and create those screen captures.
Okay. And so your sole role is just to extract the data, get it to the detective so they can analyze the information, correct?
Yes.
Okay, thank you. Nothing further.
Redirect.
No, Your Honor.
Thank you, man. You can step down. State's next witness.
The state calls Jenna Luberta.
Okay, if you want to step up over here then, and before you have a seat, if you could turn and face her and raise your right hand, she'll place you under oath.
You solemnly swear to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth in the matter now before the court, so help you God. I do. Please have a seat and state your name for the record.
Jenna Luberta, Luberda.
Okay, Mr. Lozay, the witness is yours.
Good afternoon, Ms. Luberta.
Good afternoon.
Are you currently employed in law enforcement at the present time?
I am not.
And had you previously been a law enforcement officer?
I was, yes.
The decision to no longer be in law enforcement, is that a voluntary decision on your part?
It was.
And talk to me about your previous law enforcement experience.
Sure. I started as a dispatcher, actually, in 2007. In 2011, I was sworn in as a police officer at the Green Bay Police Department, where I served for 12 years.
And what roles did you have with the Green Bay Police Department?
I started as a patrol officer, was there for 7 years, and then I moved to the detective division for almost 5 years, just shy, and then I left as a lieutenant on the afternoon shift patrol.
Were you working as a investigator with the Green Bay Police Department in February of 2022?
Yes.
And as a detective with the Green Bay Police Department in February 23rd of 2022, did you assist in a homicide investigation involving the decedent Shad Therian?
Yes.
What was your initial role in that investigation?
My initial role was to go to the place where the suspect in this case was apprehended and there was a van involved, and basically take ownership of the van and everything that happened with the van.
And the location, was that on Eastman Avenue?
Yes,
And when you arrived, did you ultimately go to that scene on Eastman Avenue?
I did.
And when you arrived, what did you observe?
I observed several other officers there. I observed the van in question, and that was pretty much it. It was pretty much just calm by the time I got there. It was just the van and other patrol officers.
And what did you do to conduct further analysis or investigation relative to that van?
I've received information that the van was involved prior to me getting there, so I knew that there may be potential evidence in the van and that we needed to secure that evidence. So I returned to the police department to write a search warrant.
Did
For
you
the van.
ultimately obtain a search warrant for
I
the
did,
van?
yes.
You know who the registered owner of the van was?
Yes.
Who was that?
Scott Tome,
THOMS?
correct.
And once you got the warrant for the van, what did you do?
Once I got the warrant for the van, I returned to the Eastman address and I called the city contracted wrecker or towing company. And then we towed the van to our evidence storage unit on Broadway Street, the city of Green Bay.
Did either you or another member of the Green Bay Police Department follow the towing company as it brought the van to the storage facility?
Yes, myself and Detective Bray.
When you arrived at the Green Bay storage facility, what did you do?
We put the van into the secured area of the storage or the evidence unit and we left.
And what did you return at some point in time to that van?
Yes, around 3:30 in the afternoon.
Why was there the delay between dropping the van off and then returning later?
Yeah, we knew that there were potential body parts in the van, and the forensic pathologist was currently at the home, and we wanted to wait for him to go into the van.
So then when you returned about 3:30 in the afternoon, did you have contact with the forensic pathologist?
Yes.
And what happened at that point?
At that point, our forensic unit started taking pictures and swabs of the outside of the van, and then we opened up the hatch or the back of the van, and the forensic pathologist took some items out of the van. We didn't discover anything in the back, but then we went to a box behind the driver's seat where he located body parts.
And who was taking the lead in terms of actually removing items from the van and then having contact with the human remains?
The forensic pathologist, Vincent Tranquita.
What was your role on that scene at that time?
I was observing.
And the forensic unit was present and
The forensic-
photographing?
Yes, sorry. The forensic unit was processing the van, yes.
Once the forensic unit and the forensic pathologist had an opportunity to complete their search of the van, what did you do?
I talked with the doctor and he told me that he believed that all of
Object, that's hearsay.
I wasn't asking specifically for what anyone told you. What did you do with the van afterwards?
So
the-
the question's withdrawn. Go ahead and ask your next question, Mr. Lezay.
the forensic unit finished processing the van and we left.
In addition to processing the van on the scene, did you subsequently have a further role with respect to this investigation?
I did.
And what was that?
I looked through one of the cell phones that was located at the Eastman Avenue address, believed belonged to Taylor Schabusiness.
Now, when you say you looked through the cell phone, did you look through the device itself?
I did not.
What did you review?
Our computer forensics person who was in here just before me downloaded the phone to what's called the UDRF file, and then we're able to view the contents of the phone that way.
And is using that type of, what they call it, a UFED report, is that something that you review regularly in the course of your duties as a detective with the Green Bay Police Department?
Almost every day.
So you're familiar with reviewing those reports and then locating the information that might be of interest in an investigation?
Yes.
And is that what you were asked to do with respect to a phone that was believed to belong to Taylor Schabusiness?
Yes.
What sorts of things were you looking for when you reviewed the extraction of that device using the computer forensic program?
I was looking for search history on the internet. I was looking for photographs. I was looking for phone calls, text messages,
Did you-
messaging application chats, things of that nature.
Did you notice anything of evidentiary value?
There was some search history that I found interesting, like internet searches that I found interesting. Yes.
And what was that?
There was searches, things of like,
Your Honor, I'm going to object. Relevancy. I mean, searches on the phone, people search, research, look at all kinds of different things. I would argue that some of these things, I believe, could be inflammatory and more prejudicial than probative.
I'll overrule the objection. You can go ahead and answer the question.
things such as flaming pentagram, Jeffrey Dahmer, things like that. KKK, I believe, is one of them.
And Detective, did you note the dates and times of the respective searches that you believe are relevant?
It was around the time of the homicide.
In the days shortly before?
In the days shortly before, yes.
And do you recall when you reviewed that, did you prepare a report regarding your observations?
I did.
If you were able to review your report, might that refresh your recollection as to the specific searches and the dates and times of those searches?
It would.
I'm showing you what's been marked as Exhibit 98. Can you review that document?
Your Honor, I'm going to object to Exhibit 98. I know it's Detective Liberta's details. It's 2 pages. But there are dates going back to December 12th of 2022, and we're talking about an alleged incident on 2/22 or 2/23 of 2022. So I've got an issue with that. I'm also going to reserve a motion outside the presence of the jury.
Okay, well, I think all she's been asked is to review the report, so I don't know yet what she's going to be testifying to. So I'll reserve ruling on your objection, Mr. Freilich, but I'll turn back to the state. Go ahead, Mr. Lozay.
Your Honor, I forgot, I want to say that another objection would be on grounds of relevancy. So,
Okay.
thank you.
I'm going to reserve those objections.
Thank you so much.
Go ahead.
And Ms. Luberta, does reviewing that report refresh your recollection as to the nature of some of the searches that you observed on the extraction from Ms. Schabusiness's phone?
Yes.
And specifically as it relates to February 12th of 2022 and February 13th of 2022, did you note anything, was there anything noteworthy with respect to searches?
Objection relevancy to that question?
Overruled. Go ahead and answer if you can.
Yes. She searched Jeffrey Dahmer. And then she searched cadaver definition, Jeff Boyardee, blow-up doll customized face.
In particular, Jeffrey Dahmer, did you note that there were several searches that were related to Dahmer?
Objection relevancy.
Overruled. Go ahead and answer.
Can you repeat your question?
Were there several searches related to Jeffrey Dahmer and other items on the device that were consistent with Jeffrey Dahmer?
Yes.
What other portions of the extraction also showed an interest in Jeffrey Dahmer?
Objection relevancy.
Overruled.
There was I wrote another search warrant for her Gmail accounts, a Google account, a bigger search that you can do to get more information. It's stored on the cloud. And in that extraction of that information, there were more references to Jeffrey Dahmer and searches for Jeffrey Dahmer, pictures, and things of that nature.
On the device itself,
Yes.
did you also locate photographs of Jeffrey Dahmer?
Objection relevance.
Overruled.
Yes.
Do you know what a device screenshot is?
Yeah. Yes.
What does that term generally mean?
A screenshot is where you take a shot of the screen, basically a copy of the screen.
And do you know if there were screenshots that were prepared in this case by analyst Danelski for your analysis?
Yes,
And did you review those screenshots as well?
I did.
And in reviewing those screenshots, were there also several mentions of Dahmer and Dahmer related interest?
Yes.
Objection relevance.
Overruled.
Yes, there were.
Was this just, a one-off, one or two photos, or were there several photographs?
Same objection relevancy.
Overruled.
There were several.
Now, you mentioned that you subsequently did a search for information, a search warrant for information from Google. Can you talk about the process you utilized to do that?
Yes, so from the device itself, we could find out how many Gmail accounts that she had. And there was a total of 5. So from those 5 Gmail accounts, we can write a warrant to Google for more information that's not technically stored on the phone, but in the cloud.
And did you draft such a warrant?
Yes, I did.
And ultimately, did you obtain a warrant from the court for that search?
Yes, I did.
Did Google subsequently respond to your warrant and provide information from those Gmail accounts?
Yes.
And what happened then when you received the information from Google?
I was able, so Google provides it in a way that's hard to figure out. So Analyst Danelski is able to put it into the same computer program to allow us to look at that information.
And once you then reviewed the information in the program, do you know the name of the program?
It's the same one that you did.
The Cellbrite, the UFED reader?
Celebrate, yes.
Okay. When you reviewed the information in Cellbrite, were you able to find similar information regarding an interest in Jeffrey Dahmer on the Google search?
Objection relevancy.
Overruled.
Yes.
Do you know, does Cellbrite give you the opportunity to parse out certain relevant things and generate a report that only includes certain items that are of interest to the person creating the report?
Yes.
Are you familiar with those reports from Cellbrite that allow you to do that?
Yes, I am.
Your Honor, I'm going to object to these three exhibits and the photograph. Could we argue these, please, outside the presence of the jury? I think it's crucial.
Okay. Well, ladies and gentlemen, it's 20 minutes to 5. I think I'm going to excuse you for the afternoon. And I'm going to ask that you be in the jury room tomorrow morning, no later than 8:30. I'm going to give you that instruction again that I've given you before. Do not communicate with anyone about this trial or your experience as a juror while you are serving on this jury. Do not use a computer, cell phone, or other electronic device with communication capabilities to share any information about this case. For example, do not communicate by blog, email, text message, Twitter, or in any other way on or off the computer. Do not permit anyone to communicate with you about this case, and if anyone does so despite your telling them not to, you should report that to me. I appreciate that it is tempting when you go home in the evening to discuss this case with another member of your household, but you may not do so. This case must be decided by you, the jurors, based on the evidence presented in the courtroom. People not serving on this jury have not heard the evidence, and it is improper for them to influence your deliberations and decision in this case. After this trial is completed, you are free to communicate with anyone in any manner. These rules are intended to assure that the jurors remain impartial throughout the trial. If any juror has a reason to believe that another juror has violated these rules, you should report that to me. If jurors do not comply with these rules, it could result in a new trial involving additional time and significant expense to the parties and the taxpayers. With that, ladies and gentlemen, have a good evening. All rise for the jury. Seated. You can step down. Okay. Mr. Freilich.
Thank you, Your Honor. I know that the state intends to offer three exhibits. I'll take the easy one first. One is a photograph of my client, Taylor Schabusiness, either laying on a bed or sitting. And then there's a phone next to her, and the phone has a picture of Jeffrey Dahmer on her phone. So they're together. We all know that Jeffrey Dahmer was the worst serial killer in Wisconsin history. There are a lot of negative memories and thoughts and commentary. People watch that trial on TV with Attorney Boyle and Attorney Wendy Patrikas in Milwaukee County. The state is trying to link my client with Jeffrey Dahmer by offering these exhibits. Additionally, the other Celebrate exhibits that Mr. Lassay wishes to produce and proffer to the court as an exhibit are, could I see those please again? They contain references to Satanic Bible, Flaming Pentagram, Satan, Jeff Boyardee, Jeffrey Dahmer, cadaver definition, Jeffrey Dahmer's butt, Jeffrey Dahmer walking in all sexy in court, rare Jeffrey Dahmer GIF, GIF, and things of that sort. And some of these items, searched items, date from 2/19 of 2022, going back to 2/6 of 2022. And I would argue that although 2019 of 2022 is fairly close in time to the alleged incident, the other ones are not. But I would argue that this information is highly prejudicial, and any probative value is substantially outweighed by the danger of unfair prejudice. I believe, and I would argue on behalf of my client, that if this information comes in, she's going to be painted in the worst light possible with probably, maybe, the worst killer in human history. And I don't believe that that is fair, but the court has to make that call. But I'm just making the arguments on her behalf. I don't think it's necessarily relevant. There's other information here that the state can rely on, but they do not need to go down this road. This is going to be a trial within a trial. It's going to create a sideshow. This is not the Jeffrey Dahmer case. It is not. This is different. The other Celebrite extraction report also contains various pictures of what is reported to be Jeffrey Dahmer. And it seems like there are 27 data files here. Some of them my client. They're little thumbnail pictures here. But if the jury sees this, I have a concern that they're going to immediately think that my client is in that category, just like him. I don't know, but I think it's unduly prejudicial. I think it's unfair. And I would ask that the court consider these arguments on her behalf, that this information not come in. I don't believe it's necessarily relevant. People do searches on the internet all the time. People do dumb things. They search for weird things. They search for odd things. But I don't see how this is even relevant to what we're talking about in this particular case. And I'd argue that the court at least consider an oral motion from me for a mistrial, because the state is going into this issue of Jeffrey Dahmer, going down this road to try and paint her in the worst light possible and create a sideshow. So I'd ask that you consider a motion for mistrial because this information has already come in. Thank you very much.
Mr. Lizette.
Your Honor, I think the information is relevant. The state has to prove beyond a reasonable doubt that Ms. Schabusiness intended to engage in this conduct, that she intended to kill Shad Theria, and that she intended to dismember his body. Her interest in Jeffrey Dahmer is relevant to this case. She, I assume, is going to argue either that she didn't intend to do this, or certainly is going to argue in the second phase of the trial that she had some sort of mental illness that caused her to do this. The state's position clearly is that no, she did this because she wanted to do this. This is something that interests her. Frankly, we haven't seen her interview yet, but I anticipate that her interview is going to be consistent with that this is something that interested her, that she liked what she did in this case. And her interest in Jeffrey Dahmer and the things that he did and the awful things that Attorney Freilich talked about, her interest in him is relevant to that point. It suggests that she had an interest in these things. It is not something that was done solely because of the methamphetamine, or that was done as an accident, or was some sort of reckless behavior, or that was the result of a mental illness. It's the state's position that she did so because she was interested in that. And for that reason, these things are highly relevant.
I haven't seen the photo. Can I see the photo?
You can.
Your Honor, I would ask that you consider taking a look at the two Celebrite documents as well, because they've got thumbnail photos on them.
Sure. So we'll mark all of these so we know what we're speaking of. Any particular preference as to order? Yes. This one first. Okay. Celebrite report noting searched items 35. That'll be number 99. Celebrite report, the extraction report, noting data files 27 on the top, that'll be 100, and the photo will be 101. So, Mr. Lizay, your reference to Ms. Schabusiness having an interest in this kind of thing, is that a different way of saying motive?
I think it is. I mean, I do think that it is motive evidence because it's suggestive of the fact that once she went down this road, that she enjoyed this and that she did this for her own pleasure and out of her own curiosity and interest. Which again, I think we haven't seen the interview yet, but there are several statements within the interview that are consistent with that. And I would note the court has seen the video. The court has had the benefit of seeing the interview. Has not been presented to the jury.
Your Honor, I believe that my client also told Detective Groff that they were buddies. That
I'm sorry?
I believe my client told Detective Groff that Mr. Shadtherian and her were buddies.
Okay, what, how does that go to what I'm looking at here? I agree with you. I think she did tell him that. I recall her saying that. How does that go to this though, Mr. Fraley?
Well, the state is trying to talk about intent to kill and that she wanted to do this and all of that. I'm letting the court know that these two people were friends. They were buddies.
So I'm having a little bit of a difficult time. I'm looking at Exhibit 99. That one seems pretty straightforward as far as timestamps because there's a column for timestamps. And I can see what appears to be dates of searches. Exhibit 100, it may be on here, but I'm not laying my hands on it. The only date I'm seeing would appear to be the extraction date, although I don't know that. They're all dated March 8 of 2022, which is after this event. So I guess I'm concerned that I'm not reading this correctly because I want to make sure that I address all the issues that Mr. Freilich has brought up, including timing. I mean, if we're talking about something that, for example, one of the events that I noticed on here appears to have an older date, but maybe you can address that for me. Before I let you move on Exhibit 100, page 3 at the top, I see under metadata title, it says capture time, October 22nd, 2013. You can only assume that that's the date that it was uploaded onto the internet as opposed to the date that she was looking at it, but I don't know those things from looking at this.
Correct. And I think through the witness, we would anticipate eliciting testimony that those pictures appeared to have been captured by Ms. Schabusiness on February 12th of 2022. I think the date listed on the phone is the last date in which that photo was modified, which actually I think is probably the date Google received the preservation letter. That seems to be most consistent with that March 8th of 2022 date. So I think certainly the state would have to provide some additional information through the witnesses to clarify the date. But I believe that the officer's own report indicates that when she looked at those same pictures on the phone, they were part of those screenshots, device screenshots that those were largely viewed on February 12th of 2022, and then the Google warrant just sort of confirmed the information that was seen on the screenshots.
We have no guarantee of that, Your Honor. It's confusing as to what date these items were downloaded, what dates they really pertain to.
And then, Mr. Lezay, when I look at Exhibit 99, I'm looking at, various, what I'll call searches. When I look at page 2 of 99, the Jeffrey Dahmer references seem to commence at item 14. Above that, there's references to other things. I'm particularly interested in your assertion as to relevance of searches about Satanic Bible online. I see that specific search once. The next, that's number item 1. Item 2 is Satanic Bible. It's a different search, but it's similar. Item 3, flaming pentagram. Where's the relevance of that?
And I think that just shows her pure interest that this is an intentional act because she has interests that are outside the norm that would suggest this type of conduct.
That's completely speculative, Your Honor. I mean, people have a right under the Constitution, First Amendment, to look at things. I just don't see the relevance here for that.
I think for that same reason, it's also not terribly prejudicial. Frankly, the state's largest concern is the Dahmer information. I think that's the most relevant. I think the cadaver definition search was also somewhat relevant. I mean, it shows her interest in death and corpses, which, part of the mutilation of this body, the defleshing and the things that happened to Shad after he died, I think are consistent with that highly unusual interest in things like death and cadavers and things that Jeffrey Dahmer did.
Well, here's what I'm gonna rule. First of all, I do think that searches. First of all, it's been referenced by counsel that obviously Jeffrey Dahmer is a unusual figure in the history of this state, and certainly the acts perpetrated by him were difficult for the community to comprehend, and he's again a very unusual figure, and I think the public has a general sense of what that individual is about because he received a great deal of publicity. I'm looking here and I see from looking at these reports, there was a great deal of interest demonstrated in that. And I think that's relevant. I do. So I'm satisfied that regarding the references to him, that's appropriate testimony. I'm not as satisfied as to some of these other items. I see 2 searches for Satanic Bible references. Looks like 3 for Satan. Looks like 2 perhaps for pentagram. And I'm not necessarily satisfied that those particular searches relate to anything particular in this case other than to make someone look bad. And that's not what this case is to be about. So I'm satisfied that regarding Exhibit 99, those references aren't relevant. What can you tell me, Mr. Lezay, about the Jeff Boyardee?
That's actually a picture of Jeffrey Dahmer on a can. So it's sort of a meme that involves Jeffrey Dahmer. I think the picture is actually in the other exhibit. It's probably very small.
Okay. So I'm going to find that's relevant based upon that representation. At the same time, I want to make sure that before we start tomorrow, that we have a brief voir dire of the witness regarding timeframes. because I want to make sure that there's a relevant time frame for this testimony. So I'm going to permit the limited testimony that I've indicated. I'm going to allow then exhibits 99, 100, and I'm going to allow 101 as well. I think it's relevant. However, exhibit 99, I don't want any reference from the witness to the first 9 items. The other items, including the cadaver definition, I'm going to permit. I think those are relevant to this case as well. I have not delved as deeply into 100, but the ruling is going to be the same. It looks like photographs. Mr. Lizet referenced earlier that he believes the reference to Jeff Boyardee maybe the photos may be in the other exhibit. That is, the references in 99 may have the photos in 100. And I believe I see that at item 8 on 100.
If I recall correctly, I think all of the photos in that exhibit in 90, is it 99 or 100 that has the photos? I think all the photos are Dahmer related.
All right. I'm going to allow those references in.
Your Honor.
I see item 15 there. I don't know what that's can't read it. It looks like some sort of text on page 3 of exhibit 100. But I'll reserve ruling particularly on that. And when I say ruling on it, I'm authorizing these exhibits to be testified to the extent that I've already authorized, and not any further than that. And the only real issue is, what will be redacted if this for some reason goes to the jury, and what the witness will be allowed to testify about. For example, when I reference item 15 in 100, I don't know what that is. So I'm going to want to know what that is before she's permitted to testify about it. So that's the ruling. But Mr. Freilich, you had something else you wanted to add. Go ahead.
Yes, I just want to clarify and make sure I understand, Your Honor, that the meme, it's a meme. It says Jeff Boyardee. I looked at it. Are you saying that can come in? I would argue and ask the court to reconsider not allowing that in because it's a meme. There's all kinds of memes out there, and it really doesn't mean anything.
Well, except that if it's a Jeffrey Dahmer meme, I think it comes under the ruling that I made. So, and that's I observe that in item 8 on exhibit 100. I see that meme. But here's what I'll indicate, Mr. Freilich. There's going to be a brief voir dire of this witness tomorrow morning, and I'll give you a chance to ask about that.
Okay, Your Honor.
And then I'll certainly rule further on it. At this time, I'm ruling that those are coming in, but I'll hear from you after the voir dire portion.
Okay, Your Honor. And I totally respect the court's ruling and all of that, but I'd like to make another motion, and that would be that I think it's exhibit 101 with the picture of my client and the phone with a picture of Jeffrey Dahmer on the phone. Would the court consider excluding that on grounds that it's really duplicitous? If the Celebrite, text references of Jeffrey Dahmer are going to come in, then why do we need to have that picture of her with the phone? Because it's a phone. It's just a picture of him on a phone. I can understand all of these arguments, but I would argue that picture, the actual picture, would be not necessarily relevant, and it would be duplicitous. I think the jury would get it, if the other stuff comes in. So, thank you.
Mr. Lizet, any response to that?
Your Honor, I think for the same reasons that the court had noted earlier regarding photographs, I think sometimes photographs are just a more powerful way of being able to view that than simply a description. And I think particularly seeing the smile on Ms. Schabusiness's face as she's next to Jeffrey Dahmer, I think is relevant and admissible. And I'm not offering to publish all of the other photographs that are specifically listed in there. We selected one photograph to be able to publish essentially.
For the, first of all, I see that, I believe that Exhibit 101 is different than Exhibits 99 and 100 for this reason. 99 and 100 demonstrate searches, an interest in getting information about and learning more about and spending some of your time thinking about a particular individual. Exhibit 101 communicates something different, and I'm satisfied that it's an appropriate exhibit to receive into evidence for the reasons that have been set out here. I think demonstrating that interest in this individual, nothing else, it demonstrates the interest that she had in this kind of behavior. But in addition, I think, and I referenced it earlier when the word interest is used, I think that is a motive concept. And for those reasons, I'm going to admit that. Mr. Freilich, your objections are duly noted. And what I want to do is I'd like to ask the state to see if you can get that witness here by 8:15 so we can start that voir dire process before the jury comes in, because if I understand how things work, we'll probably run past 8:30 with that, and the jury will be waiting for us. So if we can get that witness here by 8:15 to start that process. Okay, so I've ruled on those issues, and you can agree or disagree with them, but those are the rulings I made. Anything else for the record this evening, Mr. Saunders?
No, I don't believe so.
Mr. Freilich, anything else for this evening?
Your Honor, I'd ask respectfully if the state could give me a copy of Exhibits 99, 100, and 101, and then I'd like a copy of the exhibit that's going to be presented to the court with the redactions.
Okay. So as far as redactions go, I think my ruling, I'm not going to take pen in hand this evening and make those redactions. What I can tell you is, Mr. Lizet, were you intending on publishing 99 and 100 to the jury in their entirety?
No.
Okay. So the redactions will occur if it goes to the jury. It's not going to be published to the jury, so I don't think we need to take pen in hand. They're not going to be testified about at all. But so the redactions I'm ordering that these exhibits can only be testified to the extent that I haven't prohibited the references that I made, and that's specifically on page 1 of Exhibit 99, items 1 through 9. So again, I'm not going to take a black marker. So when you ask for a redacted version, you're not going to get it. If it comes to the jury requesting for it, and then we argue whether they should get it at all, if I order that it goes to the jury, then that would be redacted and there would be a use of a black pen. Mr. Freilich.
I understand. Your Honor,
Yes.
I did reserve that motion. I'd make a motion for mistrial because the state went off on this tangent sideshow of Jeffrey Dahmer. Ask you to consider that.
If it's relevant and admissible information, I hardly see it as a basis for a mistrial.
I'm satisfied. So, Mr. Freilich, I appreciate the motion. I'm satisfied that the ruling that I've made today, first of all, I'm satisfied that the exhibits that I'm receiving are relevant. And so I'm not going to grant a mistrial based upon that because I've received them as relevant. Short of that, nothing else has been testified to. So I've ordered that some of these items in here I don't believe are relevant. And I believe to bring them in, for example, searches for Satanic Bible Online, I think those are more prejudicial than probative, those references. And so I've indicated I'm going to exclude those references. And so they haven't been testified to about yet. So I'm not going to grant a mistrial on those grounds because no one's referenced them yet. Other than there was one reference made. I will note that there was one reference briefly made to that, but it was in a very offhanded summary kind of a fashion. The point is, I don't want any further references made to how many searches that occurred for those type, the pentagram, satanic Bible, anything of that nature, Satan. There's no more need to go into that. There was a brief reference made to it. I'm satisfied that that isn't the ground for a mistrial in this case, but I'm not going to let further inquiry be made regarding that. So, Mr. Freilich, your motion is denied, but it's duly noted.
Okay, thank you very much.
Very good. Then with that, we are concluded for the evening. We'll see you at 8:15 tomorrow.
Okay, thank you.